this episode is going to be a tough one. I think in all of my episodes, I've tried to present the glimmer of hope that is co parenting. I think I've tried to represent the peace and manifestation that I've found by overcoming some of the challenges that I've faced in regard to co parenting, some of the challenge that I've faced with becoming a father. But in this episode, I can't do that. This episode is about really ugly truth that sometimes I have to deal with in regard to co-parenting. It's it's tough. So, buckle up. Thank you for letting me vent with you today, and here it is. Welcome to the Single Father Podcast. I am your host, Kendall Donaker. This podcast is dedicated for anyone out there who's dealing with mental health and fatherhood. You'll hear about my struggles, my defeats, my victories, my highs, my lows, my triumphs, my tribulations, and everything in between. I like to call this a collection of journal entries into my struggle in adapting to single fatherhood. Without further ado, let's take a look inside my journal, the Single Father Podcast. So, I've had a really, really hard week. One of those weeks that you feel like it was so rough, it was almost a dream. In fact, there was a point in this week where I felt there is no possible way that I am not dreaming right now. This has to be a dream. And I'll tell you why. So, earlier in the week, my daughter decides to paint on my walls. So I said, "You need to go to timeout." I put her in timeout. Timeout for her is just sitting on my couch and me on my desk, which is literally 3 feet away. So I'm working away on my desk, and I get a text from her mother saying, "Layla's crying?" Question mark. I said, "How the fuck do you know that?" So I get up, I see Layla on the couch, and she has her headphones in, and I look at her iPad, and she's called her mother. I hang up the iPad, and I text her back, and I said, "Yes, Layla's in timeout." And she texts me back and says, "Oh my god, I can't believe you put our daughter in timeout. I thought we agreed that there would be no timeouts. I don't agree with timeouts. What is she in timeout for?" I just was exhausted with some other stuff in the week that really is irrelevant, but I just kind of had enough of explaining myself. I said, "Look, this is a 50-50 co-parenting relationship, right? It doesn't matter why she's in timeout." So I text her that. I said, "Doesn't matter." And she texts me back saying, "It's so bad for a child to be in timeout that early. It really does nothing. You put them in timeout, they don't know right from wrong, they feel like they can't go to you. It's awful." She sends me all these articles, sends me all this long-winded wording about timeout. This is really, really bad. So I go on Google, and I type in, "Is timeouts bad?" The first thing I see is why timeouts are good for your children. And I said, "Well, is timeouts good for a 3-year-old? Why timeouts are good for 3 to 5-year-olds?" And there's a rule of thumb. Your child should be in timeout for every year they were born. So, for instance, if my daughter's 3 years old, which she should be in timeout for no longer than 3 minutes. So, I immediately look at these articles saying why timeout is good for your children. And I wanted to send her all this, but I decided I don't want to have to explain myself any longer. I am an equal parent, joint physical and legal custody. I don't want to have to keep on explaining and asking permission for every little thing I do. I'm tired of it. I just want to be left alone, right? Worry about your own household. What happens in my household is none of your goddamn business. Sorry to use the Lord's name in vain, but it is true. So I text her back and I just said, "Look, please just get lost." Probably not the best wording, right? But I said it. And she said, "I think you should focus more on parenting efficiently instead of focusing on punishments. That to me was kind of like, I'm gonna stab you with a knife and then twist it a little bit. It just enraged me. So I texted her again. I'm just showing her a little discipline, which you lack. Please get lost. She said, real mature. It shows in your parenting style. And I said, ooh, you done it now. There are very few people in this world who can ever get me that frustrated. In fact, I'd say only two people on this planet who can make me that angry. One of them is my mother, and one of them is my child's mother. Go figure, right? You always marry your mother. Thank God I didn't marry her, by the way. No disrespect. But she sends me that text, and I just kind of snap, and I said, kindly go fuck yourself. I said, look, you even admitted to XYZ. Not going to say what XYZ is, but pretty serious. You've admitted to XYZ. I have this. Go fuck yourself. Fuck off. In other words, leave me the fuck alone and worry about what happens in your house, not mine. I get a text later on saying, your number has been blocked. Anything you need to talk about in regards to Layla, contact my mother. I'm going to create a Google number for us to communicate from now on for pickup and drop offs. Please only text me about pickup and drop offs, and anything else you have to say, talk to my mother. Oh my God. Now I'm in kind of this Russia and Ukraine type of situation. Now we're on the brink of war. Things have escalated so fucking quickly. You know how I'm gonna use kind of the situation a little bit, and I don't mean any disrespect to I'm not comparing my situation to what's going on over there in Russia, Ukraine. I'm not. I'm just kind of using it as a frame of reference, right? So, you know how in the beginning where Russia and Ukraine were at each other's borders, and each one of them were kind of waiting for the other one to fire, instigating, just waiting, right? I feel like I've been in that waiting stage for the past 2 years. The first year we went to court. Past 2 years, I just feel like we've been at each other's borders. But each one of us have not been willing to cross a line for the past 2.5 years. And I think I spoke about that in one of my earlier podcasts. Neither one of us were willing to cross a line for the past 2.5 years because we don't want no smoke. Because when they say war is expensive, it is. If I want to go to court right now for anything, it's going to cost me a grip. War is expensive, make no mistake, no matter what type of war you're in. So for the past 2.5 years, we've been at each other's borders. And in my opinion, I feel like she fired the first shot. I shot one back. And now, gears up, sirens alarm. Now we're on the brink of war. So I get so fucking annoyed and flustered about the situation. First of all, I have my daughter in my custody. She's telling me my number is blocked. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Not only did she text me later that day and said, I created this Google number, only communicate with me on this number for pickup and drop offs, which doesn't make any sense if you think about it. You blocked my number and just to text me off a different number? What fucking sense does that make? No problem. Right? And then her mom texts me later that afternoon and says, this is Layla's grandma. I'm going to be there picking her up on Saturday. And so I said, no problem. Right? But I don't feel comfortable texting this weird random number that she created. What's the purpose? Why would you block my number only to text her off this different number? It didn't make sense to me. So something seemed off. So in the courts, they recommend this co-parenting app. It's called Talking Parents. And for anyone out there who's listening, who is a parent who might be struggling with their co-parenting or with their co-parent is really hard. And sometimes you just need to be held accountable for your words. Even myself, I shouldn't have told that woman to go fuck herself, but I did. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. with everything you need in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has the tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So, Talking Parents is an app that you can communicate to where your words and your actions are held accountable. They're all documented. It's all through this app where everything is, sealed through the courts. You should look it up. It's a great app. Let me know when you download it. She texts me back and says, anything further that you have to discuss, please talk to my mother. Now, let me give you a little backstory. That text that she sent me, anything that you need to further discuss, talk to my mother. That was the perfect example. That summarizes everything that I've been going through the past 2 years, 2.5 years. It really does. Let me give you my definition of what she just said. So, a little backstory. I can't remember when it was, but there was a little argument that we had quite a while ago where she said to me, I've been extremely lenient with you. I remember those words bothered me to my core. It shook me to my core. It made my blood rise and it gave me just the biggest panic attack in the world. Gave me chills on my back. It was like a chalkboard scratching. She said, "I've been extremely lenient with you." What does that mean? I've been extremely lenient with you. A phrase that I'd get framed if I could, because it's just I wanna discover the definition of what she meant by that. I've been extremely lenient with you. You know what it means to me? To me, it means you are a house nigga. You are lucky to be in the house. In other words, you are lucky to be a parent. You're a male, a black male. You are lucky. You are lucky that you live in the house, boy. Been extremely lenient with you. You could be out in the field, boy. I've been extremely lenient with you. Straighten up, boy, and do as you're told. Before any of you are saying, wow, she didn't say anything about you being black. Did you really just say that? Yeah, I did. And let me tell you why. Hard enough being a black man. It is hard enough being a parent. It's hard enough being a single parent. It's hard enough being a black single parent because I am looked down upon. Because I am looked at as we do not exist. Like black fathers do not exist. How many of you out there have heard that? Black fathers aren't around. Black fathers don't exist. How many of you out there who might be women or know of women who those fathers aren't around for whatever reason? I am looked at like I don't exist. I am looked down upon because I'm a male. Nevada is a 50-50 state. And guess what? That implies that there's states out there that favor women. And I understand that in certain situations that is good because of XYZ. But in a certain situation of just a male and a female decide to break up, me, it is wrong to say that because I am said gender, I have more power over you. And because I am white, I have more power over you. You are less than a parent. You are lucky to be a parent. You're a black single father. You're lucky. That's how I took that. For the past 2 years, I've been trying to prove that I deserve to be a parent. That because I loved my daughter the moment she got out of the womb, deserve to be a parent. I am a good father. I've been trying to prove that every single day of my life for the past 2.5 years. Look at everything I've done. I've tried to focus on mental health. I've tried to help single fathers. I've tried to help black single fathers. I've tried to be a voice a pioneer in this space. I try to encourage and emphasize, try to empower Black single fathers out there. Like, look at me, look at my journey, hear all the things I've done wrong, and empower yourself. If you wanna be a father, if you wanna be a single father, whether you're white, Black, Latino, Asian, it doesn't matter. Encourage the fathers to stand up and be that father. I've done that. But for the past 2 years, I've just been saying, "Yes, ma'am. No problem. Yes, ma'am. No problem. Whatever you want," because I feel like I have a little bit of PTSD from what I went through when I was a child, seeing my parents in court fight with a situation that's much worse than my own. I never wanted that for myself. Never. Never. Never thought I'd ever be in this situation, and yet here I am. I went to court with a woman, traumatizing. My family, all I've got, if you listen to any previous podcast that I've done, you know that my daughter is my world. That's my everything. That's all I got. I'd do anything, anything, anything to never, ever, ever have her see the inside of a courtroom. And if it means being a slave, then so be it. So for the past 2 years, I feel like I've been a slave. I've said, "Yes, ma'am, no problem, whatever you say." Massa, no problem, whatever you say. Her mom tells me I don't believe in Santa. I don't wanna lie to my children. I say, okay, no problem, whatever you say." Man, I took my daughter to go see Santa the very next day. Fuck that noise, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, listen, for those of you who are millennial triggered, I get it. I know what she's talking about, but every parenting style is different. My daughter wants to see Santa, she's seeing Santa. I don't give a fuck. She's like, "I want my daughter to be vegan. I can't bear to have her ever eat any meat whatsoever." I said, okay. Man, you think I'm going out of my way to make sure my daughter's vegan? I will go out of my way to make sure she's healthy, that she's eating good. I ain't going out of my way to make sure she's vegan." She says, "Man," she says, I don't want our daughter learning about, God necessarily, and really the devil is just the spirit guide who leads you to where you need to." I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" But, okay, no problem. Man, I took her to church the very next day, and I said, "Praise the Lord, Jesus is looking out for me. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord." I'm not doing that as disrespect. I'm doing that because I don't want no smoke, because I'm a slave. I have to say, "No problem, massa. Whatever you want." And even if I do the opposite, I have to treat that woman like a wife. "Whatever you say, no problem." Because every Black man knows that even if you wanna scream and yell at the people who disrespect you, who degrade you, who look down upon you, you gotta play the game, baby. You gotta say, "No problem. No problem. You got it. Yeah, yeah, you got Black friends. No problem. Of course, whatever you say." Every Black man on this earth knows that you gotta play the game. I've just been playing the game. But the one day that I don't do what this woman says, the one day I said, "I've had enough explaining myself to you. My daughter's in timeout, and that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so." That's a WWE, wrestling reference. But, it's because I said so, 'cause it's my house. But the moment that I step out of line, the moment that this slave doesn't do as he's told, guess what? I get punished. And it's like I said, as far as punishment goes, I don't give a fuck whether I speak to her directly or not. Who gives a damn? But from go to A to Z is such a dangerous game to play. And it really just makes me miserable. It really does. Think about it. For the next 16 years, I gotta worry, man, if my daughter falls off her bike, man, is her mom gonna take a picture of that and do this or that? For the next 16 years, I gotta watch and make sure that my daughter doesn't call her mom while she's at my house. For the next 16 years, I gotta just tread water, making sure that the this Russia and Ukraine doesn't turn into full-on war. That's my life. So today her mother, my child's mother's mother, came to pick up my daughter. Now, I spoke to my nana about it yesterday, and I said, "Well, maybe if I just explain myself, maybe if I just explain myself to her mother, she'll see my side." And she said, "Honey, do you really think that you are going to convince her mother of anything? You really think she's gonna come over and she's gonna say, 'You know what? You're right. My daughter is wrong and you're right.' How long has this family not liked you? You think telling her a little sad story about woe is me is gonna change her mind? You don't have to explain anything to her." I said, you're right, but god damn it, I wanna show them, I wanna show them I'm doing my best. I've done this alone. I've got no family to help me. I'm doing it alone. Alone. I'm doing my best. So her mother comes to pick up Layla. Open my door, I give her my child, and I say, Miss So and so, can I have a moment of your time?" And I told her pretty much verbatim of what I've told all of you. For the past 2 years, I've been desperately trying to make sure that the world knows that single black fathers exist. I said it's hard enough being a black man in today's society. She cut me off and said, "I think you just are in your own head. I think you're in your own head and you need to worry about yourself." And I said, "Miss So and so, just trying to get the point across that I love my daughter." And she says, "I know that. Everyone knows that." I said, "Really? Because it doesn't feel like that. I don't feel like her mom actually knows that." And she says, "You make a lot of assumptions about my daughter. You assume about my daughter. My daughter has given you every benefit of the doubt. You need to worry about yourself." There it is again. Benefit of the doubt. Lenient with you. I've been lenient with you. And I said, "Miss So and so, I'm sorry, but I feel like a slave." And she said, "I can't believe that you just said that. Not only is this not any of my business, but I'm not having this conversation with you." And she walked away. My nana was right. I should have just said, "Here's my daughter. Have a great day. Goodbye." I wasn't going to convince her mother of anything, but I just wanted someone to hear me and know that I am trying my best. And it's always so weird to me when white people say, "I can't believe you brought up your race." Yes, I did, because that is how I feel. Now, there are people out there who use the race as a disgusting and like on or bargaining chip. When people say, "Oh, it's because I'm black," that's disgusting because it discredits the people who actually have a problem with racism. But when white people say, "Can't believe you just brought up your race," yes, I did, because that is how I feel. So that's been my week. And I don't know what the future holds. As of right now, I'm at a very large standstill. Russia, Ukraine. If anyone makes a sudden move, all out war. And I have to just eat it. I have to just bite my tongue and just deal with this shit to make sure that my daughter never sees the inside of a courtroom. It's not good for my child. And it's illogical. One day, this woman's going to need something from me. One day, we're actually going to need to communicate in the proper way. My biggest fear is perspective. It's interesting how I can tell all my friends what I just told you today, and they'd say, "Oh my God, that woman is such a so and so and so and so and so." Yet, her mother can tell her friends and her family, and they can say, "That guy, Kendall, he's such a so and so and so and so and so and so." It's all about perspective and how the story is told. I cried to my nana. I said, "My biggest fear, as morbid as this sounds, is that I suddenly die and my daughter is told worse stories, the worst perspective, the worst things." She told me, "Honey, the heart knows the truth." That brought me a lot of comfort. I am not a perfect man. I've made a lot of mistakes, and tell you right now that I haven't even always been the best to my child's mother, especially when I was younger. You can call me a slave, you can call me this, you can call me that, but you cannot call me a bad father. Well, that's been my week. One hell of a fucking week it's been. And it's just interesting because I usually like to tell the bright side. I used to like to end on a good note. There's going to be some times where I post in my journal, vent in my journal. Post that I write isn't always good. Between somewhere between defeat and darkness, hope survives. Everyone out there who may be going through something similar, worse, or less, remember, somewhere between defeat and darkness, hope survives. I have hope. I trust in the grand plan of the universe. I trust in my Lord, and I trust that love will prevail. I'm the single father. Thank you for letting me vent. Until next time, bye bye.